Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. This is Scotty Roberts. It is 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Left Coast Time, right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. That's ODYSY1.com. Come on over, see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio, and then join here, the Intrepid radio program, right over on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. And I want to thank you all for lining up and being here. We are doing just a live show tonight over on YouTube. I do not believe that we are able to connect this tonight to the Odyssey Radio Network, so they're playing a rebroadcast, but we'll still get this. We're still working on this. We'll get this thing fixed, and we'll get it up and running. Just dealing with some of the technical stuff right now. And hopefully by tomorrow, I'll have that all sorted out. So those of you who got to, by the way, join me for a little test run this afternoon, I appreciate your being there. At a moment's notice, and bing, bang, boom, you were there. And I was able to hopefully work out a couple of kinks. But you can see we don't have them all done. I don't have all my little things up all over my runner, my scrolling bar or anything like that. And so we're still working on some of the little details. It'll come. We'll do it. It's still a new show at a year and a half old, right? Should be just starting to learn how to walk. So, hey, welcome, everybody. Field guy, I see you were here already. And Jewel Attica, it's good to see you. And Matt Finn, Master Finn, I like to call him. Hoist your mainsails and, no, not hoist them. Unfurl your mainsails. Head out to the open sea. What was it? Peter Pan and Captain Kirk. Second star to the right and straight on till morning. So thank you, Master Finn, for being in control of things. Teresa Dantone, Roger Rabbit. Good to see you both. Glad to have you here. And Siani Reese. Nice to have you tonight. And, of course, Morgan Snow. And others starting to come in. Good to see you all. And it's nice to go live. I like the live show. I like to be able to see you, say hello, and know that we're all in the same place at the same time. And so I just returned back from running my young son Flynn to Scouts, Boy Scouts. And so I've been hanging out over there for the last hour and a half. And it was very interesting. I hadn't been to this site before. They changed the site locations, and there's a big Boy Scout camp you think they'd been using all this time. But that's, a little bit further from home. It's about a 20-minute drive from here. It's all out in the country. And you go way back on these country roads, and suddenly there's no lights anywhere. You can see lights flicker through the woods, some homes and things like that are out there. You're on a road that's a 30-mile-an-hour road through the woods. And then you see the sign for the camp. And that sign for the camp is, it's on a pole, and it's all wood, and it's all carved, Boy Scout type camping stuff, Smokey Bear type signs, I like to call them. And there's no light on it. The only light hitting it is my headlights. And we pull back in there, and we're trying to find the building we're supposed to be in. And there's no building around. There's like the Mr. Ranger, sir. The ranger's house is there, and it's got lights on. I'm not going to go knock on his door and ask him where things are. We're driving all around these paths in the woods in the dark trying to find his building, and we eventually did. So it was pretty good. It was a nice place, and so we just took off from there about 25 minutes ago. And so that's where we were all evening. Yeah, glad we weren't murdered either. It'd be the great Boy Scout camp murder caper. It was Mr. Fields all along. Why, you're not a ghost. You remember Scooby-Doo? Every Scooby-Doo ended the same way. So it was never a ghost. And it was always, I feel like I just talked about this. Was it here or in a private conversation? It's never a ghost. But they always pulled the mask off. Mr. Field or Mr. Johnson. If it weren't for you bratty kids, I'd have had all that treasure to myself, he'd say. So, hold on. Little water. I prefer spring water. My wife got purified water. Okay. It's not quite as good, but it's there. So that was my early evening today. I wanted to talk just a little current events. Wanted to look at some things. As you know, the vote counting and the vote challenging is still going on. And I would be remiss if I did not say something about this, if I did not look at this and say, look, we got to talk about this a little bit. And yeah, I'm glad you weren't axe. I'm glad I wasn't axe murdered too, Roger. That's a good thing. So yeah, it was cool and kind of spooky. Very Novemberine out tonight. Very little snow on the ground. It's all melted off, and it's going to be into the 50s and the 60s sometime this week as well. But we still got a little tiny bit of dusting on the ground out there, but all the leaves are off the trees and things like that. So anyway, yes, you are absolutely correct when you say that. I think Lewis said that it's a shit show. Yeah, the whole thing is kind of a mess out there. Does President Trump still have a path to winning a victory? Yeah, I think he does. And that's scary to some people. That's why they resisted so badly on the left. Now, I know the way political sides work. If it was the other way around and the tables were turned, we'd be fighting we'd be resisting a recount or resisting a challenge too. But looks like there are some real red flags were raised, as we've talked about on this show. And there was something interesting that took place. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with the election, but remember Governor Whitmer of Michigan? She's the one who put out all those COVID laws. And then, well, not laws, they were mandates from the governor's office, like a lot of the states, liberal states, are having. And she was called out on it by the legislature, and she refused to do what the courts told her to do. And so the Michigan state lawmakers are now calling for the impeachment of Governor Whitmer. And the governor's office responded, ridiculing Republicans for not wearing masks. That's her defense so far. And I'm looking at pictures of signs right now. My governor is an idiot. Pure moron, it says. Recall Whitmer official. And they have these recall campaign going on now. And the Michigan state lawmakers are calling for the Democratic governor, Gretchen Whitmer, to be impeached for ignoring court orders that were striking down her coronavirus restrictions. And so in a Facebook post written on Sunday, GOP senator or GOP state representative Matt Murdock and several of his Republican colleagues announced that they were going to seek to hold impeachment hearings against Governor Whitmer and in the House of Representatives. And the Facebook post lists several reasons why the Republicans say Whitmer should be impeached and removed from office, including ignored court orders, ignored due process and legislature, and using our kids as political pawns, and denied special needs students who depend on the services that occur during in-person classes. And so the Michigan Constitution empowers the House of Representatives to impeach civil officers for corrupt conduct in office or for crimes or misdemeanors. And in a statement responding to these GOP lawmakers, Whitmer's office said the governor doesn't have any time for partisan politics or people who don't wear masks. I'm going to tell you something, folks. If you're in government, you better have time for partisan politics, meaning you better listen to the other side of the table. Sometimes those people have something to tell you that you need to listen to. And so, hey, Carly, by the way, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're doing well. And what does Lewis say? Lewis Boyce says, Republicans are trying to steer the electors to vote for Biden. Why are Republicans doing that? That's pretty nutty in the way I see it. Iowa X, is it just me, or will Whitmer and Kamala end up in a dominatrix fight? Might be just you on that, Iowa, but I wouldn't say that this year is not open for anything to happen. So we see the Governor Whitmer. She's having a little problem there. She claimed that she had the authority to issue a second stay-at-home order in response to surging coronavirus cases that have led to an increase of hospitalizations and deaths in the state. Now, I need to find out. I'm in Wisconsin. Supposedly, Wisconsin has one of the highest, quickest rising coronavirus cases in the country, the fastest rising number of. And now I don't have it, thank goodness. I don't see many people around me with it. We've heard of a few kids in the school who had it and they got quarantined and back to school after 2 weeks. So the big question I ask is, are all these cases rising because we're now finding out we're doing more testing? And therefore, by doing more testing, you're finding out more people that have it? I keep hearing the hospitals are packed, but well, not around here. Not up in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, which is the big hospital systems that are within an hour of here. So I don't know where this is all happening. Can't say I can deny it's happening, but I can say that things don't seem any different than they did 6 months ago, other than we're used to it now. We're used to hearing about it now. And so she put up all these new restrictions, and she claimed she has the authority to do it. And the new coronavirus restrictions in Michigan are going to be put into effect on Wednesday. That's day after tomorrow. Now, high schools, colleges have to stop offering in-person classes. Restaurants have to end indoor dining. Entertainment businesses such as movie theaters, bowling alleys, casinos have to close for 3 weeks. Now, do you know that these kinds of closings, these are things that are going to kill businesses? And so people say, well, I'd rather have some businesses die than have people die. Well, how many people are actually dying? The numbers of infection are going up, but are we seeing the numbers of infection lead to increased numbers in death? I think we've had, with all the raging about all the coronavirus infection numbers going up in Wisconsin, I think we've had 2 people a week die in all the state of Wisconsin for being the state that has its coronavirus infections raising at a faster rate than anywhere else. Now, 2 people a week and say nobody should die. I agree. But you've got to step out of the box and look back in and say, how many people died of lung cancer last month, last year, over the last year? How many people died of cancers over the last year? How many people died of the flu? Yeah, it's a pervasive thing, this coronavirus, or an invasive thing. But we've also got to look at it and wonder why some of these other things aren't being reported on. And so maybe Governor Whitmer has overstepped her bounds. And so there you go. And now, so Governor Whitmer, you can watch that story kind of close, see what happens to her. And after the court ruled in October, she said that she would use alternative sources of authority to implement coronavirus restrictions that were not at issue in the court's decision. So we have yet to see that happen. So that's what's going on there. I don't know what you think of the coronavirus and all the spread they say that's happening now. Is this something that was hype? I have a lot of friends saying to me, liberal friends, I put the friends in quotation marks, that are saying to me, so, Scotty Roberts, I don't see coronavirus lessening up because the election's over. And I said, well, the election isn't over yet. So keep that in mind, too. So, speaking of that, the election not being over yet, did you know that Gavin Newsom, remember who he is? He's governor of California. With massive legal loss, he gets hit with a legal loss. And it rules that he overstepped his authority on mail-in ballots. Going back to the election, let's look at this for a second. The judge's ruling had a much broader implication, however. A California judge ruled late on Friday of last week, so 2 business days ago, that Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, overstepped his legal authority when he mandated that every legal California voter receive a mail-in ballot for the general election. Now, the ruling doesn't impact the 2020 election. What's the background? Newsom issued an executive order in June that declared that all Californians who are registered and otherwise eligible to vote on the November 3rd, 2020 general election should receive vote-by-mail ballots. And the executive action was taken as a part of the California Emergency Services Act, or CESA, which gives Newsom special powers during a public emergency, in this case, the novel coronavirus pandemic. And Newsom signed an executive order that mandated all registered voters receive vote-by-mail ballots and allowed counties to reduce precincts on Election Day if they provide in-person voting centers for at least 3 days. If they provide in-person voting centers for at least 3 days prior as the way to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Now, what did the judge say about this? What do you suppose? According to Sutter County Judge Sarah Heckman, the executive order overstepped Newsom's legal authority because he doesn't have the power to amend existing law. Now, listen to this. This is important because this is some of the kind of thing that's going on in President Trump's challenge to the election. Things that overstepped the law. Now, keep in mind, I've had people of all kinds say to me, usually on the left, Biden supporters, Biden voters, that will say, well, every vote should be counted. And they say, let the votes that exist stand. You know, this is a democracy. Everybody, we have democracy and freedom. It's a breakdown of democracy. Hey, Karen Steele, how you doing? Good to see you. Hey, Barbie D. And anybody else who slipped in while I was babbling away. So you start looking at that and you say, wait a minute. We are not, and I'm going to say it for the 100th time between this show and Rocky's show over the last several years, we are not a democracy. We are a constitutionally limited republic that has democracy. And so when it comes to elections, we have constitutional rules and regulations for voting in this country. And when those rules and regulations are broken or bent or are ignored or not adhered to, then you got a problem. This is what Newsom is facing. Executive Order N6720, issued by the governor on June 3rd of this year, is void as an unconstitutional exercise of legislative power and shall be of no further force or effect. So Heckman's ruling said the California Emergency Services Act, that's the California Government Code 8550, blah, 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 does not authorize or empower the governor of the state of California to amend statutory law or to make new statutory law, which is exclusively a legislative function, not dedicated or delegated to the governor under the CESA Act. And so the ruling came after two California Assembly members, James Gallagher, Kevin Kiley, both Republicans, sued, arguing Newsom's order went beyond the governor's legal authority because he amended existing state law, which falls under the authority of the California State Assembly. And there's more to this. And by the way, if you are a Democrat, I'm not trying to offend your sensibilities. Many people who are Democrats don't know certain things about what's underlying some of the things in their party. But one of the things I've seen the left is attempting to do is to be able to allow things like this to happen, to be able to strip the legislature of its ability to make laws and give it to the executives. That's the first step to tyrannical governing. Now, you may look at me and say, that's an awful lot, a long leap. It's really not. It's the beginning steps. Now, according to the whole ruling on this, Heckman didn't stop there. Newsom's lawyers argued the entire issue was moot because the California Assembly later passed a similar law. But Heckman disagreed. saying that the issue wasn't just about Newsom's actions on the mail-in ballots, but whether he has the power to exercise legislative powers by unilaterally amending, altering, or changing existing statutory law or making new statutory law. And so Heckman ruled definitively that California's Emergency Services Center Act doesn't give the governor the power or the authority to amend statutory law or create new statutory law, even during a state of emergency. And you know, when Newsom did all this, it was during the state of emergency. And so finally, Heckman said that Newsom's order violated the legal doctrine of separation of powers. And the doctrine of separation of powers prohibits any of the three branches of government existing the complete power constitutionally vested in another, or an existing power in a way which undermines the authority and the independence of another, Heckman wrote. So there you go. So you got Gavin Newsom getting struck down big time by the court. And, he's been a pain in the ass of people. This week got so many people leaving California right now. Hey, Sarah. Good to see you, Sarah Nichols. Nice to have you here tonight. Vote for your favorite gang of billionaires, says Iowa X. Ain't that the truth? And so I want to see if anybody else had anything to say in here pertinent to this. The most important thing is stopping church choirs and Christmas carolers. Very true, Iowa. I have seen that, and we're all seeing that. Smooth brains, says Matt Finn. Let's see. Teresa says, how will we react when or if there's a real pandemic, now that we have mistrusted this process for good reasons? That's a good question. Do you remember, what that kind of brings to mind? I don't know how I'm going to tie this all in other than to make note of it. There were a couple of years ago, didn't we see something about all these FEMA camps being built, all these body bags and coffins, body boxes, things like that, being moved in on trains? This was all documented. It was all seen. It was in the news. Well, the side news. All these military actions and things, weren't people thinking something's up? Then we got this pandemic came. It's very interesting. What's going to happen to the pandemic now? Do you think the pandemic's going to continue after this? You think it's going to be as infectious as it was prior to the election? What do you think? Let me ask you a hypothetical, which is not too far-fetched a hypothetical. What do you think will happen in this country if after, and I only say this way, not to make fun of, not to embattle them, but all the utter smugness I have seen from people in the Biden camp and on the left that are, oh, looks like your president lost, didn't he? It's like, he might have. We don't know yet. And I have said emphatically, I said, yeah, I'm disappointed my candidate lost, my president lost. But you know what? I've said, and I'm going to, if you can hear children screaming in the background, that's my kids. So pardon that. The non-soundproof walls over there. I have said to people outright, and I said it the day after the election, I said, if Joe Biden wins the election, I said, you know what? You're never going to hear me say, not my president. Now, I may have philosophical issues. I may believe more is going on behind the scenes. I may believe that there is more underhanded work going on there that would make me say, well, not Joe Biden. You know what? Whoever sits in that office is the president. And as long as I'm a citizen of this country, that person will be my president. Even if I don't agree with them ideologically, even if there are many that think that he cheated by getting there. I don't think Joe himself cheated. I don't think Joe knows what's going on half the time. I can't not respect him. I don't respect his ideology, but I have a problem with a president who was elected by people knowing that not all of his functions are there. But moving on to my point is that I would accept him as my president of my country. I would defend the presidency of this country. That does not mean I will not oppose him ideologically. There's a big difference there. And I also think that you're going to, and I have to ask you guys this, what if Trump ends up winning? What if by legal actions and challenging the outcome of the election on the basis of him having a right to challenge that? Somebody today said, well, show me where in the Constitution it says that. And I said, I'm not going to give you a civics lesson and a history lesson and a constitutional lesson and link it all together, is what the conversation ultimately came to. I said, look, I'll answer that when I get back to my computer later today. And, that means you don't know. No, it doesn't mean I don't know. But I'm going to ask you, somebody who's older than me and supposedly has his hand on understanding how things work in the government, I'm going to ask you, do you need me to handhold you through the process and walk you through, like a little child, through constitutional law and civics and constitutional support, constitutional mandates and rules on voting and elections, and tie all that together for you to show you how the president has a constitutional right protected to challenge the outcome of an election? Joe Biden, not the president, could have challenged the outcome of the election. There are rules under which you can do that. And if it was unconstitutional, he wouldn't be able to do it. So you start looking at all that. So I have to ask, keep getting back to my point, how do you think the left will react in this country if Trump retains the presidency? What if he wins his challenges enough of a point to where the vote sways? What if he can prove that there were 28 states that had voting problems? What if he can prove that there's 2.7 million votes that are illegitimate on top of more votes that were switched and more votes that computers? What if all this Dominion stuff ends up being true? What do you got going on if that happens? What's going to happen in this country? So far, I've said, well, so far you saw the president of the United States gain 73 to 74 million votes, and Joe Biden has 76 million votes. Thereabouts, I said. And so have you seen one city burned and destroyed by Republicans or conservatives because they lost the election? No, probably not. And I know we haven't. And so there's a different response. Have you noticed how the left wants to rush into declaring Joe Biden the vice president, the president-elect? Do you know, I know we've done it in the past. We've done it by the news media, but there's a challenge that's up. Should Trump concede? Should they place the title of president-elect on Joe Biden when we're not sure what the outcome is yet because of the challenge? There's some states that are still recounting. They've got the votes, the electoral votes, at much lower. Joe Biden hasn't reached the magic threshold. And so what do you do under that situation? What if Trump ends up winning the election and retaining his office? That'll be a very interesting outcome. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in this country. I will say there is a not so nice part of me that wants to see Trump win, so all the gloaters on the left and the smug people on the left that have been giving me crap for 2 weeks, love to see them have to eat those words. But then you know what they'll do? They'll claim that Trump stole the election. It's not a free country anymore. We've lost the election, and it's whatever. We lost the election due to not everybody's vote counted. Well, not every vote counts. I'm going to tell you that. Not every ballot counts. Every vote counts, but not every ballot counts. So when you've got that kind of situation, you got a problem. So President Gore says man, bear, pig will decide. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. especially if this goes to the House. Let me take a drink. That wasn't a quiet chug of water, was it? So Karen Steele said this was a military sting to catch them cheating, which is traditional for them. They're done. And I think you're right, Karen. I just hope that they can prove that evidentiarily with evidence and make it stick. Field guy, I voted twice for president and went 0-2. Sorry, I don't know if that's good for you or not. Well, it depends on who you voted for. So, IOX says that's a South Park reference. Okay. I was never a big South Park fan. Sorry. There are some things I found funny on South Park, and there were other times I didn't want to watch it. So, that, despite saying that I was a Beavis and Butthead fan 20 years ago. So, shut up, Beavis. President's gonna kick your ass. Anyway, revote. Was that revolt spelt with an accent or revote? Yeah, there might be calls for revoting in some states. Hey, Teresa. Oh, you're saying wrong to this. Hi to the other Scott Allen. How you doing, Scott Allen? Good to see you in the room. And so there you go. That's election stuff. I get tired of that. I get as tired of it as you do. The reason I don't do a lot of politics on this show, I've done more politics since the election than I've did before the election. And it's only been 2 weeks. The only reason I do that is to keep us on top of this, to say, look, it's not dying out. It's getting a little quieter in some places, but it's not died out. It's still going strong. There's something I saw today, too, that I thought was very important. Something I said to a lot of my friends on the left was that, maybe your candidate has won the presidency. We don't know yet. I said, but one thing is for sure. I said there was no mandate against or to repudiate Donald Trump. Didn't happen. You don't have 74 million people in a country vote for somebody that's being repudiated by the country. Oh, and by the way, how many times have I heard, and I just want to go, whatever. I heard how Joe Biden, he's the first president to ever get this many votes, the first guy to ever run, to ever get this many votes. And I wanted to say, well, you know what? Donald Trump is the first incumbent president to get 74 million votes. There's a first there, too. I don't hear a lot of that being said. President Obama, when he was reelected, he only got 64 million votes. 64 million. Almost 65 million. And that was a lot of votes. But he won because he got 65 million votes. Trump lost getting 74 million votes. 10 million more votes than Obama got on his glorious, what they called a mandated reelection. Got 10 million less than Trump got in this election. It's the same thing. There's, X number, hundreds of thousands more people have COVID now than did last month. Well, we're doing more testing. Could it be that there's more people being tested? 74 million more people voted for Donald Trump than voted for Obama when he was reelected in 2012. So there's a lot of firsts going on here. But another thing that didn't happen in this election, you didn't see the blue wave happen. They were talking about blue wave across the country, meaning all the House would be dominated by Democrats. The Senate would be lost to the Republicans and dominated by Democrats, and so on. There was no blue wave. There was actually a fairly decent red wave going on. 10 Republican women were voted in. Now, what's also interesting, and one of the things that they saw as a red flag in the elections, was a lot of these states had ballots where all the downvoting from president all went red. All went conservative Republican. But blue won the presidency. And they're saying that's an anomaly. That's a huge irregularity. And so this is part of the process they're looking at as well. All of these things that are going on, that and COVID fear, says Teresa. Yeah, you're right. Now, there's one other thing I saw today that I thought was worth mentioning tonight. Bill Maher, I've mentioned him before. Mentioned him when he was talking about COVID. He's a huge opponent to the closing things down and he's very liberal, progressive, leftist. And Bill Maher hit the Democrats with a sobering reality check on why that promised blue wave never happened. Democrats too often don't come across as having common sense to a huge swath of Americans. This is what Bill Maher said. He said Democrats predicted that a blue wave would sweep over the nation in this month's elections, with Democrats winning the White House, winning Congress, winning state legislatures and governorships state or nationwide. But the blue tsunami never materialized, as Republicans made significant gains in the House, in state legislatures, and they're likely going to retain their majority in the Senate. Plus, data show that President Donald Trump and the Republican Party made significant gains with all demographic groups, with the exception of white dudes. The white dudes are the only demographic that Trump didn't advance in. He advanced with Latinos, Hispanics, with blacks, with women. He advanced in all other demographic groups. So will the Democrats learn from their mistakes? That remains to be seen. But on HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher, the host, Bill Maher, gave Democrats a sobering reality check the other night, explaining why that blue wave never happened. What did he say? He said this: Democrats were supposed to flip the Senate and didn't. They were supposed to flip state houses, and they didn't. Not a single one. And they lost seats in the House in a year. In the House in a year. And this is Maher explained this. Their share of minority votes went down. The message to Democrats is from over so much of the country seems to be, we don't like Trump, but we still can't bring ourselves to vote for the other guy. And so he continued, liberals can either write off half the country as irredeemable, which they're doing right now, or they can ask, what is it about a big D next to a candidate's name that makes it look so toxic? Let's ask Ruben Gallego. He's a congressman from Arizona. He was asked how his Democrats could do a better job connecting to Latinos. He said, first, start by not using the term Latinx or Latino, which is the vast majority of Latinos have never heard of. It's Latinx. He says they've never heard of that. And when they do, they don't like it. Who likes it? Pandering white politicians who mistake Twitter for real people. Now, Maher went on to point out that Democratic policies, in particular far-left policies, are hurting the Democrats in elections. Virginia Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger said that after the election, if we were classifying Tuesday as a success, we will get fucking torn apart in 2022. That's a congresswoman said that. And she was urging members not to talk about defunding the police. Don't talk about that. James Clyburn agreed, defund the police is killing our party, he said. Pennsylvania Democrat Connor Lamb says Democratic rhetoric needs to be dialed back. It needs to be rooted in common sense. Thank you. Thank you. There, in my opinion, is the crux of the problem. Democrats too often don't come across as having common sense to a huge swath of Americans. Now, if you're a Democrat, I'm sorry. That's just kind of the truth of it. Later, Maher dismantled Democrats' inability to understand why Americans supported Trump at all, explaining their redefinition of reality is losing Americans at the ballot box. 74 million people voted for Donald Trump. More people than Obama won in his mandate's second election by 10 million. So Democrats keep saying in the campaign, you can't possibly think Trump is preferable to what we're selling. And many voters keep saying, well, yeah, we kind of do, in fact. And our primary reason for voting him is to create a bulwark against you, because your side thinks silence is violence, and looting is not. Because you're the party of chasing speakers off of college campuses and making everyone walk on eggshells and replacing let's not see color with let's see it always and everywhere. And formerly, that's the position of the Ku Klux Klan, by the way. So I got to tell you, the idea of purity and you're never compromised, this idea, and you're always politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that really quickly, is what Bill Maher said to fellow Democrats. So I got to tell you, even people on the left, and I don't know how leftist Bill Maher really is. I remember him coming out under Obama's new tax plan a few years ago and really being pissed off, angry, disgusted because of all the money he had to pay in out of his pocket under Obama's plan. And so it's very interesting. I don't like Bill Maher. I never really have. I like him as an entertainer. I don't like his ideas. I don't like his political ideologies. But he's right about this. This is why Democrats didn't get their blue wave, because mostly people think they're kind of dumb. So anyway, I got no commercials on the live stream tonight, Matt, but I could insert one right here. As a matter of fact, this is a good place to take a break, because you know what the topic was supposed to be for tonight? Going back to the Genesis of Genesis. We were going to talk a little bit more about that. The whole thing about Marduk and the Ajiji, and we'll maybe even touch on that before we get out of here tonight. But before we do, let me be the first one, because I'm live in the chat room every night, but because I'm talking about this, go on over to I'm going to type it, etsy.com/shop/son of a patriot. Now, oops, I missed a W at the beginning. Go over there, etsy.com/shop/son of a patriot. That's where all my designs are, all the t-shirts and the hoodies, coffee mugs, all that good, cool stuff that I create. I design all the graphics for, put them on garments. A lot of fun stuff over there. There's 2 full pages of garments over there. So go over and take a look, see what you think, and take a look at it and pick up something for yourself. Thank you, Roger. We were just browsing this. I think you're talking about my page over there. And you can also go over to here www.scottallenroberts.com. Boom. You go over there, you can see all the work I do. I'm an illustrator, a graphic designer. I design logos and corporate identities and all of that stuff. You can take a look at the Son of a Patriot Etsy page, and you're going to see a lot of those are all my designs. Go over to my scottallenroberts.com page, and you're going to see, not as the main header, you're going to see me with a cigar, but just scroll down just a little bit, and you're going to see a bunch of artwork of mine, drawings. Click on that, and that'll take you to all the logo designs I do, all the illustration designs I do, stuff you can look at and see tangibly the kind of work I do. That's what I do for a living. I design book covers. I design logos, corporate identities, websites. I design book interiors. I illustrate kids' books, adult books, stuff like that. So that's what I do day in and day out. So come on over and come and get your love. Come and get your love. So that's what you can get at my website, scottallenroberts.com. And I want to say this. I have no idea who sent this to me. Got this from Amazon today. Remember the other day, if you follow my Facebook page, I said, I love pesto. And I said, I need a good homemade pesto recipe, if anybody's got one. And so I got sent a couple of recipes. One was from Rocky Stucci's mama. That's a Mama Stucci. And, you know, she's like a 1 foot off of the Sicilian Islands, you know. Island, Sicily. And she sent me a great recipe. And it was she took a picture of the handwritten recipe and sent it to me. And Rocky even messaged me and said she didn't type that out for you, did she? So she sent you a picture of it. And so there it is. So I got a great, but somebody sent me this. Look at this little book I got today. Pesto. The quick and easy pesto. Little tiny book. Inspiring pesto recipes for every meal by Alice Watterson. Look at this. It's got some great pesto recipes in here. So somebody saw my call for, hey, I need some good pesto recipes, and anonymously sent me this book. And whoever you are, if you're listening to the show tonight, thank you very much. That was very cool. And I'll make some up. And if you tell me who you are, I might send you a jar. I should have warned you. I was taking a pause to take a drink of water. Very dry tonight. And so, thus endeth the commercial portion of the show. I want to thank you for still being here. We have about 15 minutes left of the show officially. And again, this week, by the way, Intrepid Radiio over on YouTube, we're going to kick off our membership. I've been talking about it for a week and a half. Membership will mean you can put in some money to get a membership to this show, to this broadcast. Now, if you don't have any money to send in, that's fine. You don't want to. You can still listen to the show for free every night. Monday through Friday. And what you'll get for the extra money, though, $1.99, $1.99, $2 minus a penny per month gets you membership to this show. $2 a month. We can even set it up on an auto deposit or whatever they call it, auto pay. $2 a month. You won't even know it's gone. But let's say 1,000 of you put in $2 a month. That's $2,000 coming in per month to this show, which will greatly increase some of the things we're doing around here. We're going to have a $5 a month or $4.99 membership. That gets you a lot more private stuff, a lot more. And again, I'm going to put out a video soon, hopefully this week, and actually launch this thing rather than just talk about it. Just letting you know it's coming. It's a couple different levels of memberships and a couple of different things you're going to get as a member. And again, $5 a month. If you're looking at it and you go, I make $6 a month, it sounds like a lot of money. $5 a month when you go, hey, you can basically buy, a double Dutch chocolate sprinkle with foam and whipped cream latte caramel apple sludge drink at Starbucks is going to cost you more money than $5 a month. So we're going to put those up. We'll make them available to you. So it'll be nice to have you. Hey, Steve, good to see you. And Barry Chad, how you doing? It says, yeah, Field, we'll do our own show, Field to Field, your sports, and we'll do hunting. And what do you think? Barry, you got to go digging on that bluff on your property, too. I want to hear that something comes from that. That's really intriguing to me. So if you don't know what Barry's talking about, maybe he'll tell you about it in the chat room. Might have some cool ancient stuff on his property. Oh, that was on a Sunday. That was his last Sunday, or was it a week ago when we did the rods? That was a week ago. Man, that seems like yesterday. Anyway, so there you go. And by the way, I want to make you all either jealous or angry. We're setting up our Christmas tree. We got a tree out there, and everybody started putting the lights on. We'll put all the ornaments on it tomorrow. we ran out of time this evening with everybody because I had to run the boy to Scouts. But Rainey texted me from Walmart. Now, I'm a real tree lover. I love a real tree. I love to go chop down with an axe a real tree and drag it home in the snow and shake it off and put it in the water thing and give it 24 hours so all the branches settle. And I like the short needled spruce. Why, the balsam? Is it the balsam? And because I like the kind of branches where you can hang lots of ornaments. I want that thing just overstuffed with ornaments. And I love the smell. I love the pine smell. And I love when in the evening everybody goes to bed and you turn off the lights, but you keep the Christmas tree on. I like to sneak down at night and just sleep on the sofa a little bit and just have the light of the tree. And I think that's it's magical. But we bought a fake tree. All that to say, we got a fake tree this year. And Rainey was sending me pictures. And she said, she was out to the store with the girls. They wanted to buy a pink plastic tree. Looks like a real tree, like it's been spray painted pink. And I'm like, I wrinkled my nose. And they said, well, or there's the white one. I said, how about a green one that at least looks like a real tree? And the nice thing about these is they had them half off. They were like $35, something like that. I said, well, the price is right. So we can go chop down one of the neighbor's trees for free. We did. When I had the ranch, we had a 40-acre horse ranch that we were buying. And it went down into a deep cut into the valley. But then up the other side of that hill was the neighbors. They had 80 acres over there. And the old house was like a haunted house. It sat up on the hill. You can see it look about this big, this old house way up on his hill over there. And it was abandoned. They didn't live in it. It was like a haunted house. But they kept the property and the government paid them to grow pine trees. And so the whole hillside that faced us, way over on that side of the valley, was thick pine trees. And we thought, we could just walk over there with an axe and take down one of those little 6-7 foot trees and drag it back over the borderline. Nobody'd ever know. There's like 1 million trees over there, but we never did. Anyway, so we now have a plastic fake tree. They didn't, thank God, bring home the pink tree. I thought that's a little too bubblegummy for me. They did bring home the white one, though. So it looks like we have this white flocked tree. And it's kind of pretty. You look at it and I think, okay, Uptown Madison Avenue Advertising Agency lobby Christmas tree is what that looks like. It's white. And, with white, Buffy, don't you have to get all the proper color ornaments to hang on it? But no, we've got all our old ornaments. I like collecting ornaments. I like having a new one every year. I got my Star Trek ornaments I like hanging on the tree. So, Scotty, fir trees are what is used as Christmas trees. Now, fir, I always thought fir were the big long needled ones. They look like poofy fat trees. What's the one with the short needles? The little short needles. They come out in the little shoots and short needles. And it's really full, but that's what I like because you can hang things on all the little individual things coming up. You got the big poofy bally arms. It's like trying to hang something on that and the ornament hangs sideways. So I'm thinking fir. Maybe it is fir. I thought it was balsam. I might be wrong. Balls, some tree. A ton of Star Wars ornaments for Scott Allen. That's good. And so, one of these years, I'm thinking of doing it the old Celtic way and hanging the tree, what we would call upside down, with the point pointing down. And you dress it up that way. That's an old Celtic tradition. And so, Blue Spruce, says Delaney Delight Jones. How you doing, Delaney? Good to see you. And Rude Margaret. Is it now, Margaret, I've got to ask you the name. It's Margot. Rude Margot. That is a very cool name, though. It's Roode. That sounds very Scottish to me. Am I correct about that or not? Rude Margot. Margot sounds French. But of course, you think of the Old Alliance, the Scots and the French. I don't know. Rude Margaret. Or Margot. Rude Margot. That's a very cool name. Sorry for your loss. Take care. I didn't see who. I missed something in all the translation here and not seeing all the posts. Sorry about that, folks. So I'm looking to see, and I'm not seeing anything in here off the top. So whoever's having some problems and in need of some condolences, I extend you mine until I find out exactly what that was. So Big G scale Christmas train. It's a tradition for carry, and we're carrying it on. It's fun to lay by the tree and hear and feel the train running. Oh, that's kind of cool. So, all right. Bamboo would be nice, Scott Allen. So, sorry, Rude. I'm not sure what you meant either. I didn't see anyone. I looked back and no insensitivity to anybody or to you, Rude Margot, but I didn't quite see who you were talking to. Maybe it was meant for somebody else, someplace else. So there we go. It might be presidential. It might be a presidential thing. Says Rude Margot. Sorry for your loss. Take care. I'm not sure. So anyway, if you're still around, Rude Margot, let us know what you're thinking. And again, now we've got really 3 minutes left of the show, technically, and I didn't get into the meat for tonight's show. I gave you the intro for tonight's show, but we didn't get into the genesis of Genesis. That whole idea of asking, is the creation story that we find in the book of Genesis, is that actually a Babylonian story? Is that the story of Marduk? Is it the story of Gilgamesh? Is it the Enuma Elish? And so it's very interesting. Remember, it was you who drove back the sea with your might, who smashed the heads of the monsters in the waters. It was you who crushed the heads of Leviathan, who left him his food for the denizens of the desert. It was you who released springs and torrents, who made the mighty rivulets run dry. That was the book of Psalms, Psalm 74. So there's all this information out there, and it looks like we're going to have to hit it tomorrow. That talks about the same things enumerated in the Enuma Elish. In Genesis 1:21, on the fifth day, God creates Tannin, often translated sea serpents. And the same creature appears as TNN or Tin or Tunan in the Ugaritic myth. It says, as surely I fought Yam, the sea, the beloved of El, the god of the Anunnaki, the chief god. Surely I finished off River, the great god. Surely I bound Tunan and destroyed him. And then there's the biblical Leviathan in Psalm 74, has its parallel in Itin or Litan, who battles God in another Ugaritic myth. When you killed Litan, the fleeing serpent, annihilated the twisty serpent, the potentate with 7 heads, the heavens grew hot and they withered. So this is all the stuff that this Assyriologist Wilfred Lambert dug out of these old cuneiform texts. This is the stuff we were supposed to talk about tonight. And there's a lot more of it to talk about. And because we didn't finish it all. We could have read Tablet 4. This is the creation story from the Enuma Elish. The creation story begins on Tablet 4. It continues on Tablet 5. This is the Babylonian tale, which is unfortunately the least well-preserved section of the epic. And in this translation, brackets indicate gaps in the Exodus, or Exodus. Saw the X and I said Exodus. Text. And there's brackets all through the translation in Tablet 5. But it starts by saying in tablet 4, the Lord Marduk trampled the lower part of Tiamat with his unsparing mace, smashing her skull, severed the arteries of her blood, and made the north wind carry it off as good news. His fathers saw it and were jubilant, and they rejoiced, arranged to greet him with peasants, greeting gifts. The Lord rested and inspected her corpse. He divided the monstrous shape and created marvels from it. He sliced her in half like a fish for the drying. By the way, James Johnson's show, Beyond Reality, is starting right now. He's talking about space exploration. So you might want to go over there and see that. Or you might want to stick around for the few minutes I'm running over into his show. It goes on and he says, he drew a bolt across and made a guard hold it. Her waters he arranged so that they could not escape. He crossed the heavens and sought out a shrine. He leveled Apsu, the dwelling of Nudimud. And the Lord measured the dimensions of Apsu. The large temple Eshkala, which he built in its image, was Eshara. And in the great shrine Eshara, he had created as the sky. And he founded cult centers for Anu, Elil, and Ea. And then it goes into the more of the creation tablet. So that's the stuff. There's a little taste of what we're going to get back into tomorrow night. If I'm not sidetracked by anything else going on in the political world, I think President Trump needs to make certain cases by this Friday or file certain cases in order for this to perpetuate. So we'll see on that. Let's see. Who else we got going here? We got people leaving. Karen Steele, thank you, Scotty, and all wonderful mods. Peace, harmony, and love to all. Thank you, Karen Steele. Come back anytime, every time. Barry Chad, LOL, I ran my battery down to 0. I have to review the rest of the show. That's all right, Barry. And while you're reviewing right now, as you're watching this, hey, nice to have you back reviewing. And let's see what else we got going on. Whoa, what a story, says Barbie D. Yeah, it is. It's quite a story. And it's really a story that's retold in the Old Testament. It's told in Genesis. It's told in Psalms. It's told in these other places. It's there in the Hebrew Bible, in the Old Testament of the Bible. These same horrific stories of God fighting monsters of the sea. You don't see it as much in Genesis, but you see it in the other recountings in Psalm and other places, talking about the great serpent, the Leviathan, that Yahweh defeated at creation. So, there's a space station docking happening. That's kind of cool, Scott Allen says. And thank you for letting me say thank you, Karen, and you saying you're welcome. So, yeah, it's quite a story. We'll get into that some more tomorrow night. Now, it's already 10:03. You know me, I could keep talking. But I appreciate your time, and I don't want to overstay my welcome with your time. I do want to take a drink of water, though. Hold on. Wow, I've been dry all evening, so I could have had a lot more of this. So I want you to come back tomorrow night and hear more of this. We're going to talk about the Enuma Elish again. And you know what's interesting to me and why this is of interest to me? It's not because I feel a great need to speak just about biblical topics, but I think we were all raised on this stuff in one form or another. And discovering that there is a lot more to this and that there were other cultures who had different versions of the same stories is very intriguing to me. What does that mean? What does it mean when you have hundreds of other tribal cultures that had their own versions of the flood story? Does that mean they all experienced the same flood and just told different stories about it? Are they all make-believe? Are any of them true? Is one of them true? If you've got all those accounts, what do you do with that information? I love seeing, by the way, I sit back sometimes and I watch archaeological shows. I like to call those up on either YouTube or Amazon, some of those other places. We've got Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, and YouTube on our Android TV, smart TV. And so sometimes if I'm up late in the night, wake up and I go downstairs, so don't wake everybody else up because I can't sleep, I'll turn on something like that and I sit and watch. I was watching this show late last night on, I don't remember the exact name, Seacoast Archaeologists or something like that. And it's in Great Britain, and it's all the coastlines they go around, and they're looking at river coastlines that have sea estuaries and the sea coastlines around the islands. And they're finding ruins that when the tide goes out, they've got 3-4 hours a day before it starts coming back in, where they can go down and they find ruins. They found these ruins of what would be only described as, it would look like this. It would look like a lollipop if you're looking from overhead. Big round circle and a long skinny bottom. But laying down, it was a long dock going out, I think, into the water, and a big circular thing like a pier, but it had a round house on it, the thatched roofed round Celtic house from 2,000 years ago. This one was. And I've seen other ruins over there, barracks, I think they're called, that date back 3,000 years. And but it's interesting that those ruins are still there of something that was built out of wood that's buried most of the time in water. And you don't see the structure the way it used to look, but from the air, you can see it was there's circular ruins of rocks, they've found 27 posts broken off that formed the circle. And it was a large circle. You start looking at that, you're saying there's some amazing stuff that took place, amazing feats of engineering. They've got a pier that's something like a mile long in one place. It was built 3,000 years ago by hand. A breakwater. Or some people thought it was a pier, others thought it was a breakwater. So you look at that stuff and you go, that's amazing. But then you say, what was it there for? I see Barry saying Fish Bazaar. Maybe. Am I seeing good night, Morgan? Hope you rest well. Says Matt to Morgan. You have a good night, Morgan, if you're still there. And so it's crazy, amazing stuff. What did they do in that round building out on the round pier? Why did they build it? I don't think they know. All they can do is speculate. Why would this have been here? Is there anything else like that anywhere else in the British Isles? Back when men were men. And yeah, exactly, Matt. Thank you, Steve. So I think it's interesting stuff. And so Siani is getting back to work. Well, you have a good time. Sorry you have to work late at night. So those are the kinds of things that I like to catch. And then I want to think about them and ponder about them and pass that on to you. These are the same things, looking at things in the British Isles, we're trying to understand. Some of the things in the Americas we're trying to understand. You uncover something and you go, oh, it's a temple. Well, we don't know it's a temple. What about all the finds in Egypt, just near the stepped pyramid of Djoser, which we talked about very recently? Hundreds of mummies. And it was like the cemetery that anybody wanted to be in, you know. Amen Shuf, you must be buried in the cemetery at the stepped pyramid. Everyone gets buried there who's anyone. That's kind of what it was like. And they're uncovering all these sarcophagi that are still, they look freshly painted, just a little dirty. Brush them off. They're opening them up and finding they're intact. The mummies are still wrapped and still painted with magical cords still wrapped around them. There's no decay. I saw them open one up, and there's no decay on them. It looks like that was just done last week. Just a little dusty. But it was inside a sarcophagus as well. And that to me is amazing stuff to uncover and look at and see why people try to figure out why people did what they did. Egypt, it's a little easier to figure out. We know a little bit more about them. But yeah, they're dying to get into it, Matt. Exactly. So there you go. Those are the things that intrigue me, and that's why I do these shows on the Enuma Elish. What made Genesis Genesis? You will give me all the information on the project called Genesis, if you remember what that's about. But no, what made Genesis Genesis? Was that the beginning, really? Was there something else before it? Is what we know about Genesis, was that based on a prototype religion, so to speak, or a proto-religion that existed the world over? And that's just the version that was adopted into Canaanite or Hebrew culture. It's a big question. So anyway, we're going to hit that tomorrow night. And it's now 10:11. So I should probably wrap up being long-winded. Roger says, would unearthing and opening these tombs ever unleash some seriously evil energy? Nobody knows. That's the topic of my novel that I'm finishing. The unleashing of energy like that. And I can't give it away. I could tell you the story, but then I've told you the story, so I'm not going to tell you the story. But there's something in my book that embodies that, the unleashing of that energy. If you remember, I wish I could share this with you, and I can't show it to you right now because I can't throw an image up the way I'm doing the show tonight live. I don't have the same stuff going on. Let's see. Let's see if I can find this. Okay, here we go. I'm going to find something because I want you to hear this. And I may have read this a while back. Oh, you know what? I lost the connectivity to my external disk. It got unplugged and never plugged back in. So I can't read it to you now, but which is too bad. But wait. Hold the phone. I might be able to. Let me look at something here. This was part of, there was that little series of books that we were working on a couple of years ago for the Little Platinum books, the how-to books. And let me find, it's on a page here somewhere. Let me see all my pages, Little Platinum books, because I might have it in here, saved as an image. There was an image I did that I based on that was for the book, How to Be an Archaeologist. And I wrote some of the text of the book is written into this page. Let me see if I can find this page. It's all in the images. They've set these pages up on Facebook. It's a Facebook page, and they're set up so differently that I can't seem to find stuff the way I used to. So hang on. Let's see if we can find it here. But I put up a thing that shows the uncovering of a artifact by this archaeologist in this book. So you want to be an archaeologist. Now let's see if it's even in here. If it's not in here, I can't read it to you. So give me a sec. Here it is. Well, here's the drawing. Does it have the whole thing? Let me find out if it shows the whole thing or not. Yes, it does. Here we go. Okay, now this is for those little golden books we were doing, little 26-page books for kids, a little more sophisticated. It's for parents to be able to read these things to their kids. And I showed an archaeologist, and it's based on a picture of mine where you see me from the profile, and I'm looking at this imagery on the workers' cave that's up above Jesher Jesheru, Deir el Bahri, at Shepset's temple, up in the cliff wall there. And I use that to base for this fictional archaeologist in this book. And I had written this just as a sample page. And what's fun about it is that it, see if I can open it up any bigger. Yeah, open it up. There it is. Okay. What's fun about this is I kind of took our experiences and the experiences of my friends who are archaeologists. They're scholars, but at the same time, they have their foot in that other world. And I show a picture. There's the picture of the archaeologist. I illustrated this, and he's looking at a stone face of a statue that they've uncovered. The archaeologist is full of dirt and dust, and it says this. I wrote this for this little book. You won't find it in books. They don't teach it in school. The universities won't break with their cardinal rule that says it's all science, just history, nothing more. They give you lectures and letters, then matriculate you to the door. But it's there in that moment, after years of hard work, of reading, writing papers, and digging in the dirt, that you find yourself breathing the air of the ancients. You've moved rocks, sifted silt, and now you finally face it. Eternal life, it was written, resides in the name. Remembrance and utterance is the name of that game. So you drop to your knees, assuaging your fears, and for the very first time in thousands of years, you gaze into eyes that shed only stone tears. Your fingers brush lightly on glyphs carved so bold, and there on the lintel where in antiquity was told the story of this man, now 3,000 years old, in the recounting of his life and his deeds of great fame, lay the resurrection to be found only in his name. His face to your face, your words to his ears, you speak out his name not uttered in years, and the statue before you breaks free of its bonds, reconnecting with life in the life of the gods. And so that's what that whole archaeological thing does for me. It's the eternal life was in the remembrance of the name, the speaking the name. When my friend John Ward and his wife Maria, there was a tomb or a shrine they uncovered. And you've probably seen some of the pictures I've shown where I'm in front of this little tomb. It looks like a square entrance. John Ward and I were there back in 2013. It was all covered with bulrushes. It was on the bank of the Nile. And I jumped in and it was like ankle deep full of mud because sometimes the Nile would flood and go up in there. And so I jumped right back out. But there were two statues in the back, smaller than life size. And it was the statues of the man and his wife. And that was one of the shrines that John uncovered one of the years. The whole team uncovered it. And I was there taking pictures of the whole thing. I got to dig up above it, in the quarrying part above it. It's in the hillside facing the Nile, on the west bank of the Nile. And right next to it, and there's like 30 some shrines, not next to each other, not lined up. They're just all down this side, the west bank of the Nile at Gebel El Silsila. You can climb up on the hills and you got to get down and around to them. Some you can't reach but by boat. But right next to this shrine was another shrine that you didn't know was there. And there had been probably about 2,000 years ago an earthquake that took down some stones over the top of this. But John saw some snakes there. And he said, I will bet you there is a gap in there, which tells me there might be another shrine in there, in between these other shrines. Sure enough, they worked off the big stones and they opened it up. And here's these 4 statues of a man and his wife and kids. I can't remember his position. He was not a merchant, but a like lesser governmental figure. And he was enshrined at that site at Gebel El Silsila. And John and Maria uncovered his face and his wife's face, his family's face, for the first time in over 2,000 years. And you know what they did as scholars and archaeologists, academics? They held a little ritual. And in the hieroglyphs surround the man and his wife and family were the names. And for the first time in 2,000 years, they spoke the names of this man off the shrine. And they did this to resurrect. It was the resurrection of the name, of the life. And that's very poignant. That's what made me write that little segment for that book. So, anyway, there you go. That's all I got. We're way over time. I'm biting into Jimmy Johnson's time, which I don't like doing. But we're not on the same network, but he's my friend. I don't like to do that. And here I go. I blether for another 20 minutes past my show end. So a couple of... Oh, hey, Doug. Scotty, the Sphinx. Is it 30,000 years old? I heard a rumor once. Well, there are some very good people who think it's very old. The water erosion on the Sphinx and the surrounding rocks seems to indicate that this has been there for a very much longer time than we think it has. There's the Assyrian Temple just before you get to the Sphinx. It's right there as you're walking to the Sphinx. And it's older than the Sphinx itself. It's got alabaster floors and alabaster walls, and those walls, like where it comes to a corner, some of those corners, they're rounded. The individual stones have been rounded and smoothed out. It looks like marble. It's alabaster, rounded out, and it's irregular cuts, but they all fit together like paper. And that's the Assyrian Temple, just before you get to the Sphinx. And so it's very interesting stuff. That could have been there for many tens of thousands of years, I think. Oh, you're welcome, Roger. Thank you. Your passion makes it feel so happy. Oh, thank you. So I'm just going to see if there's anything else. Anybody said that I got to answer, or was there a question or anything going on? Let's see. He'll be rolling out. Oh, yeah, Doug, this week we're going to roll out something for the memberships. We'll get that going. And have I ever, Matt says, Scotty, have I ever considered classical political satire cartoons? Yeah, I have. If they can't find this fraud, at least you got 4 years of content to use. Ain't that the truth? Yeah, I've thought about it. I've done some political cartooning in the past. Never syndicated, so it was never... I just did my own things and threw them up on social media. The last one I did was on a few years ago, 2-3 years ago, where they... you now could no longer get into the military because you were gay or diabetes or whatever. Different things. And I did a political cartoon on that. So let's see. Sometimes on both here and JV's pages, says Scott Allen, simultaneously. That's cool. Yeah, me too, Doug. I want to go back. Channel. It's youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. Thanks for being here. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a good night, guys. Bye.